I'm NolaSimon, and I'm the host of the Hybrid Remote Center of Excellence. Today, I'm actually recording my podcast from a location that's other than my home. So this is cool because we have a new facility in the town of Georgina in Keswick, where I live, which is called the Multi-Use Recreational Center. We call it the MERC, which is short form for that whole long speech. But basically, there's a library branch here, and in the library branch, they have an AV room, and it's essentially for podcasting, for making videos. There's actually music, there's drum kit, and I'll record a whole short little video so you can actually see what it looks like. But I'm actually here in a third location because I don't often get a location where I can do the type of work that I want to do. And it's cool that this facility actually exists in the town of Georgina. Normally, my whole life, I've been told that in order to get cutting edge type support, I need to go to Toronto, to the city in general, Markham at least. And to have it up here where I actually don't have to commute to it is the best thing ever. The room is actually soundproofed, and it's got a wall that's painted green. So essentially I have a green screen. It's got a curtain if I don't want to have the actual green show. And it's equipped with a Mac, but you can bring your own laptop, which is what I'm doing. And the only thing I'm actually using today of the equipment that's available to me is actually the microphones. So I didn't bring my microphone because they actually do have high quality sound equipment here as well too. So I'm trying it out to see how that actually makes a difference in my podcast. What's interesting is you actually have technical support as well too. So there is one person who's been hired to actually run the makerspace because they also teach 3D printing, and that you can make stickers and all kinds of technology that's available. And mostly that's aimed for kids to learn how to print little animals on the 3D printer or to make stickers. I came in here and somebody that I actually knew for a long time, she's a senior, she's retired, she's making a t-shirt for somebody that she loves. And that is cool again, that the functionality exists here in a rural area, because although we're considered GTA, essentially we've always been rural. We have not had that infrastructure to support the digital savviness that needs to exist for the work that personally I've been doing for a long time. And so that's really different up here. For me personally, the majority of the work that I do as a consultant, as a hybrid remote futurist, I do it from home. I do go into the city occasionally as demand comes up, and I'm asked to actually appear in person. But most of the time, I actually work from home. That can be problematic sometimes because my husband, my kids are home. My husband in particular is a renovations contractor. So he has equipment in the garage, which happens to back onto my office. And so sometimes I could be on a call, sometimes I could be recording. And all of a sudden we have air compressors and saws and drills and whatever he happens to be doing at that moment. And that impacts the quality of my audio. And he's not the type of person who actually plans in advance. He works as he needs to. And it's his workspace as well. So sometimes it's really optimal if I have a place where I can go, where I can actually close the door and actually be away from my family. Sounds awful, but it is useful for those boundaries because some days everybody needs help all at the same time. And if you're trying to work while you're doing that, enforcing those boundaries is actually easier if you're actually not physically present. But in Georgina, we don't really have really great third spaces that are technologically equipped. Coffee shops are not ideal for me. The library, the old library branch, you could get quiet and you could get peace, but at the same time, you couldn't get privacy. You couldn't necessarily have a dedicated room unless you're actually booking it. So again, this room does actually have to be booked, but there's not that much demand yet in the area. Today, I was told I could actually call and see if there happens to be availability on a short notice basis, and that's completely fine because now that I'm certified to use all the equipment that's actually in here, I have access to it whenever I want, really, unless it happens to be booked by somebody else. And that's beneficial. That's really beneficial because it allows me to craft my work in a way that's different. I like being home. I like being available to my family. I like being available to my dog. But sometimes it's nice to actually have that space where nobody else is observing what you do. Nobody's listening to what you say. You have that privacy to create without knowing that somebody else is listening and watching. And I personally find that very valuable because I am an introvert. I do present as an ambivert at best. So I am completely comfortable with chatting. I love talking to people. I like presenting. I like speaking. But at heart, I'm actually an introvert. And I grew up as an only child. So I was used to having a lot of privacy, a lot of time to myself, and ability to really create without actually being constantly monitored and interrupted. And that's something that I've actually missed since I became a parent. And this type of third space allows me to reclaim some of that. And I'm interested to see how I can craft my schedule in a different way to take advantage of just extra space, really, and the equipment as well. So, in terms of rural Canada, how does this make a difference? Because a lot of people, you either work in the office or you work at home. And can you actually work in a third space? This third space you might be able to work on because it does have a closed door. There's privacy that you don't get in coffee shops. I was always in financial services, so I was always leery about working in a third space because you have to be really careful about how you talk, right? Because you don't want to reveal any personal information. And so, quite honestly, I still have that on my mind when I'm actually doing anything is, am I preserving privacy? Am I making sure that the environment that I'm in is respectful to anybody that I happen to be talking to? And that's something that's kept me from working in coffee shops and co-working spaces and stuff like that too. Co-working spaces don't really exist up here either. Again, I would have to commute to at least Newmarket. I don't actually know of one in Newmarket anyway right now. I think the nearest one might be actually Barrie or Markham. It's a significant lack in the Canadian market. There's not co-working spaces that are easily accessible anywhere that's not actually a city. And that's a gap in the market that exists here. But again, I do understand it because what is the demand? So far as I can tell, there's about maybe 5 podcasters and some teenagers who are using this room. And that's great for me. It's perfect because I love that. But how do you increase demand and how do you make this type of facility available in other rural areas? And the fact that it's actually in a library is great because you don't actually have to pay for anything. It's part of the municipal services that are available to residents. And apparently one like this exists in the Newmarket Library too, which I didn't actually know. But that is something that I'm excited about to see whether it's actually going to move across Canada and like make its way into more rural, isolated areas that will allow people to actually build up their skills and learn how to teach itself basically how to become more digitally connected. And podcasting and video production, that's all stuff that if you don't have the equipment, having it available through the library without cost, that's a great, cheap way to take advantage of the resources that the library is teaching, but also like the equipment that they're making available to you for free. And so that's lowering the bar for other people to learn these types of skills and really develop them. And that's an interesting future of work, right? How do you take advantage of the people who are willing to teach themselves and educate themselves to level up their skills and apply that to their career? And how does that change education? How does that supplement retirement? That's all very interesting. Again, this is really just a kind of test episode to talk about the fact that the podcast studio that I've been so excited about since March is finally open and ready to use. And this is my first demo of the equipment, and it's easy to use, and anybody can do it. So right at the moment, the only thing I would say is I'm not taking full advantage of it because I'm not using the Mac. I'm not using the Adobe software that they've got available to it. But this is now something that I have access to that I could play around with and see if I like that. I didn't feel the need to change my tech stack because I already know what I'm doing with it. It's nice to have for me to be able to learn that other thing. I don't need to do it right now. You have to decide what's worth it, what's not worth it. I'm not into video editing in a significant way. Most of the time, what I use, I remove fillers and I really don't edit visuals that way. If I do, I use something that's simple like CapCut that's on my phone, right? Or Canva. That's the type of tech that I'm comfortable with it when it comes to actually visual editing. And audio editing, I used a script. And then I publish through Libsyn, and then that goes to all of the players. That's an easy tech stack for me, and I don't necessarily feel the need to change that right now. But again, I can take advantage of the resources that are available. The person who actually runs this makerspace actually just told me that through the library, you actually have access to ancestry.com, which is actually interesting because I've been interested in that, but I was never interested in actually paying for it. But apparently you have free access to the library. And the future of that is actually really interesting as well, too, because all of the paper and all of the photos that we accumulate, a lot of that lives online these days. And so what happens when eventually those records become inaccessible because devices change, or you lose access to where it's being stored or saved because of password issues? Does all of it just disappear? What does that mean in terms of legacy and memory? And what is the future of nostalgia, basically? So that's an interesting question to explore too. And I wouldn't have even had that really come up unless he had told me that Ancestry.com is actually free and I could maybe explore that and see what that's going to lead me into. That's cool. Those are just ideas that come to me just from knowing that services are available. So anyways, hopefully I've inspired you to at least check out what exists in your own local library. And don't forget, a lot of times in surrounding areas, you can actually get library cards as well, too, because I actually do have a library card for Newmarket Library, for example, and you can order resources in from other libraries. So there's a whole connective lending system that exists as well, too. So just because your local library might not have access to something doesn't mean that they can't get it. So really explore what's available through libraries, because personally, I think that libraries are one of the key ways that we remain connected and we have the ability to really invest in our learning. Because don't forget, LinkedIn Learning is also available for free through libraries as well. Normally you have to pay, if you have a LinkedIn, you have to pay for like a premium plan to be able to get access to LinkedIn Learning unless somebody's giving the learnings away for free. Through the library, you can get access for free without actually having a LinkedIn paid plan. So that's something to consider as well, too. So anyways, that's my pitch for libraries and how that connects communities and maybe helps us with the loneliness epidemic and upskilling. And that's all related to the future of work, the future of how we live, how we relate. And I find it fascinating. So anyways, thanks for listening. Talk soon.